The Roy Orbison mystery has finally been solved, and the truth is far from comforting. Roy Orbison, born Roy Kelton Orbison on April 23, 1936, in Vernon, Texas, grew up in the shadow of hardship. His childhood unfolded during the tail end of the Great Depression, a time when money was scarce and life demanded resilience. Yet, amid these struggles, young Roy discovered a gift that would define his destiny. At just 6 years old, he was given his first guitar, and by the age of 8, he was already performing on local radio. Music became his escape, a sanctuary where he could express emotions that seemed too heavy to carry alone. Inspired by country legends like Hank Williams, crooners such as Bing Crosby, and the gospel sounds of the South, Roy began shaping a style uniquely his own. When his family moved to Wink, Texas, Roy's passion for music only deepened. As a teenager, he formed his first band, the Wink Westerners, gaining confidence on stage and honing the skills that would one day captivate the world. This early immersion in performing and songwriting laid the foundation for what would become one of the most hauntingly beautiful careers in music history. By the late 1950s, Roy's talent had caught the attention of Sun Records in Memphis, the same label that launched Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, and Jerry Lee Lewis. His early singles, rooted in rockabilly, gained modest attention but failed to define him. That moment of revelation would come a few years later, when he moved to Monument Records and finally found a sound that matched the depth of his soul. With producer Fred Foster, Orbison created a style unlike anything else in popular music, a blend of country, classical, rock, and pop wrapped around a soaring 3-octave range. In 1960, his breakthrough song, Only the Lonely, introduced the world to his gift for marrying vulnerability with grandeur. What followed was an extraordinary run of hits, Crying, Running Scared in Dreams, and It's Over. Each song carried an emotional weight that listeners had rarely heard in rock and roll. Then came Oh, Pretty Woman in 1964, a track that fused swagger with aching romance, securing his place as an international star. What set Orbison apart wasn't just his vocal power, but the sincerity of his storytelling. While rock music of the 1960s often celebrated rebellion, youth, and carefree living, Orbison sang about heartbreak, loneliness, and despair. His songs spoke to listeners who saw their own pain reflected in his words. His image only deepened. The mystique dressed in black, expressionless behind dark sunglasses, he appeared almost ghost-like, earning nicknames like the Caruso of rock and the Big O. His music felt less like entertainment and more like confession, drawing audiences into the depths of human longing. But behind that mystique lay an avalanche of personal tragedy. In 1957, at the age of 21, Roy married his teenage sweetheart, Claudette Frady. Their romance was passionate and stormy, inspiring his song Claudette and bringing 3 sons into the world: Roy Jr., Anthony, and Wesley. Yet in 1966, tragedy struck when Claudette was killed in a motorcycle accident. Just 2 years later, in 1968, a fire consumed his home in Hendersonville, Tennessee, killing his 2 eldest sons while Roy was on tour in England. Wesley survived only because he had been staying with his grandparents. The double blow of losing his wife and 2 children nearly destroyed him. The grief seeped into every aspect of his life. His journals from that period, only recently uncovered, reveal a man teetering on the edge, consumed by depression, dependent on medication, and wrestling with despair. To the public, he remained the stoic figure behind dark glasses, but privately, he was a broken man. Fans interpreted his sorrowful songs as artistic genius, not realizing they were drawn directly from lived agony. Despite the devastation, Roy found a new beginning when he married Barbara Jacobs, a German-born music executive. In 1969, Barbara became a stabilizing force, supporting both his emotional healing and his career. Together, they had 2 sons, Roy Jr. and Alex, who would later help preserve their father's legacy. Barbara's devotion to him endured until his death, and after his passing, she dedicated her life to managing his estate and ensuring that his music would live on. The 1970s were difficult years musically, with his popularity fading, but the 1980s brought a remarkable resurgence. Younger artists, from Bruce Springsteen to Bob Dylan, cited him as a profound influence. In 1987, he was inducted into both the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Songwriters Hall of Fame. His collaborations also flourished, including a Grammy-winning duet with Emmylou Harris and, most notably, his role in the supergroup The Traveling Wilburys alongside Dylan, George Harrison, Tom Petty, and Jeff Lynne. Roy adopted the playful pseudonym Lefty Wilbury and contributed to their wildly successful 1988 debut album. His presence on the song Handle with Care reminded the world that his voice was truly one of a kind. Yet, even at the height of his comeback, darkness loomed. Behind the scenes, Orbison was plagued by untreated health problems, exhaustion, and the lingering effects of grief. Recent discoveries in his medical records suggest that experimental sinus surgeries in his youth performed to treat breathing issues may have altered his vocal structure, gifting him his extraordinary range, at the cost of lifelong pain and migraines. His unique voice, the very thing that defined him, may have been both his blessing and his curse. Friends and family have since revealed that Roy often felt as though he was living on borrowed time. His 1988 album Mystery Girl and his work with the Wilburys gave the appearance of a triumphant second act, but inside he was deeply unwell. That December, he died suddenly of a heart attack at just 52 years old. For fans, it was a shocking end. For those closest to him, it was the inevitable conclusion to a life weighed down by sorrow. Even in death, his influence has never faded. In 2014, the deluxe reissue of Mystery Girl included a newly finished track called The Way Is Love, built around a long-lost vocal demo. The song was completed by his sons, along with producer John Carter Cash and Jeff Lynne. It was a haunting reminder of both his artistry and the enduring bond between father and family. And so the Roy Orbison mystery is solved not in the way fans might have hoped, but in a truth that is far more human. His sunglasses, his trembling voice, his sorrowful lyrics, these weren't just stagecraft. They were the cries of a man carrying unspeakable loss, turning pain into music, giving the world his soul while his own was slowly breaking. Behind every note of crying, every whisper of in dreams, and every yearning in Only the Lonely was not just performance, but truth. Roy Orbison was not simply the big O, he was a man who sang because he had to, because it was the only way to make sense of the heartbreak that defined his life. And in doing so, he left behind a body of work that continues to resonate with anyone who has ever felt the sting of loss, the ache of love, or the fragile hope of survival. His life was tragic, but his music remains eternal, a haunting echo of beauty born from pain.